Today, we're going to talk about the 8 steps involved in buying a home here in Paradise. And we're going to get started right now. Hey, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sunshine Sherry with Remax Realty Team right here in Southwest Florida, Cape Coral, and Fort Myers. If you're new to my channel, please make sure you click that little bell and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of the videos that I make about the Cape Coral, Fort Myers area. So let's get started. I'm going to discuss in general the 8 steps to buying a home here. Now, in other areas of Florida, there may be different procedures, different ways that they do things, but I just wanted you to know how we roll here in the Cape Coral, Fort Myers area. You know, traditionally, folks may go out and look for a lender first. For me, that's not actually the first step that I would recommend. That'll be step number 2, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. You know, there are some folks out there that think, I don't need a real estate agent to help me through this process. It's pretty easy. I'm good on my own. Maybe that works for some folks, but I think that that can be a crucial mistake. So if you find somebody that you are comfortable with and that gets you, then I would say it's certainly worth the time to get to know that person a little bit better. You know, as your real estate guide, I will absolutely make sure that we investigate enough homes so that you find just the right home, that we ask all the appropriate questions, that we put in an appropriate offer, and I will confidently negotiate the contract for you on your behalf. I will always do my best to try to take as much stress out of this process as I can. And I do that by sharing with you my knowledge of the local market, of the local area, and answering as many questions that you may have as I possibly can. And I will not sit here and tell you that I know all the answers to your questions, but I will get the answer one way or the other. I try to make the process as fun as possible, as enjoyable as possible. And I think that when you get to the end of this journey, you will have a smile on your face. And don't forget, my service for all of this is free to you. The seller pays the service fee for me to help you along the way. I like to start our relationship by either meeting here in person if you're in town, but most of the time I have to say I start by chatting with you on the phone for probably about 30 minutes so that I can get a clear picture of what your goals are, what your lifestyle plan is, what location you might be thinking about, if you have a price point in mind, and a timeline. Are you going to be buying this year? Are you just starting to look? All of that needs to be discussed so that we can get to know each other better. Next, I like to get an idea of what your perfect property profile would be. Again, the location. What style house are you looking for? Would it be open concept? How many bedrooms and bathrooms do you need? Do you need an office space? Are you looking for a 1-level place, or is a 2-story okay? Again, I'm just trying to get to know what your needs are and what your wants are. After we have all of that good stuff about the house that you're looking for and your timeline and all of that figured out, now it's kind of time to move on to that step number 2 that I talked about, which is the financial part of the journey. Now, there's a couple different routes you can go. If you're paying cash, that's one route. If you're getting a loan, then we'll go a different way. If you're getting a loan, I have a couple of local lenders that I would recommend. And I would recommend local lenders because they know the market, and believe me, they want to do a great job for you because their local reputation depends on that. They want their business to thrive locally, so that's why I would recommend a local lender. They can make the process simpler and move along better because they know the way that we do things here in Southwest Florida. Now, if you have a lender, say in Michigan or wherever you're coming from, okay, we'll go with that. But if you don't, I would really recommend looking into a lender that is from around here and can get the job done as quickly as possible. Lenders in general are going to talk to you about a few things. Probably the first thing they'll talk to you about is your credit score, because you got to get that out of the way to see if you're in the right ballpark for what you can actually afford. They're also going to talk to you about how much of a down payment you're going to have and approximately ballpark how much the closing costs are going to be. That's all of that together is going to determine how much house you can afford, and then up to you, how much house do you want to afford. At the very end of the conversation or the process, then will come the pre-approval letter that we will need to move forward with finding your perfect home here. Step number 3 is really determining your priorities. Once we have our initial discussion, then I will go about the business of setting up a search or searches, depending on what kind of place you're looking for, and you'll start looking at the listings. Now, you may notice that your perfect home is not out there on the market right now, or if it is, maybe it's not in your price range. So now we need to kind of pare that down and find out what are your must-haves and what are some things that you may be able to give up or change what you're actually looking for. Here we are on step number 4, and that is we're going to go look at houses. But before we actually go look at houses, we want to make sure that we either have a pre-approval letter if you are financing, or a proof of funds if you're paying cash. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, in this market, some sellers say, if you don't have one or the other of those, we are not going to approve the showing of our home. The second, and in my mind, more important reason, especially in this market today, if we were to walk through a home and you were to say, oh my gosh, Sherry, that is the home of my dreams and the one I want to put an offer in on, and you don't have that pre-approval letter or that proof of funds, and it's going to take us a couple days to get that house is most likely going to be gone. So I don't want your heart to be broken and have you kind of look at me and give me the stink eye. Now it's time to get in the car and go look at houses. However, I'm going to caution you. I love looking at houses. I love my job. So I have learned over the years that the more houses we look at, the more confused you can get. So my procedure is I hand you a clipboard, I hand you a pen, and I hand you listing sheets for every house that we're going to go in. I will also have made some investigations into those houses before we go out. I will tell you how old the roof is, how old the AC is. Those are the two heavy hitters as far as cost goes when you're looking at already built houses. I will ask you to make copious notes about the houses that we're looking at so that you can remember when we get to the end of the day which one had stainless appliances, which one had nasty tile, which one was awesome. Because it's going to be tough, and all that stuff's going to get jumbled up in your mind. I also look at all the other building permits that have been filed with the county so that we know if the sprinkler system is new, or if the house has been repiped, or if there have been other modifications to the house. So I try to gather as much information as I can so that we can talk about it when we're walking through these houses. But don't forget, the more we look at, the more confusing it might get. Okay, we've found the house that you want to put an offer in on. And almost every time, folks will say to me, how much should we offer? Should we offer full price? Do you think we can negotiate? Do we have to offer over full price? And I always say, let me go back to my office and do a comparative market analysis, or a CMA. That is going to tell you pretty close what the house might appraise for. Because why would you want to put in an offer for something that's not going to be very close to that appraisal amount? Now, if you're paying cash, then you can really offer whatever you want to, but I never want you to overpay for a house. Now, is the market going up? Yes, it is. Let me go back to my office, do that CMA, and get back to you with what a reasonable value would be. Because there's nothing worse than putting in an offer and having the appraisal come in different than what that offer is. So I just want to say right here that we write as-is contracts here in Southwest Florida. That means just what it says. You are buying this house as it is. So we will definitely do a home inspection. However, you need to know at this stage of the game that the seller does not have to repair or replace or do anything to the house because you are buying it as is. Now, sometimes we can negotiate once we get the home inspection with the seller, but it's very important that you know that the seller does not have to fix anything. Once you decide what price you want to offer on the house, as well as what your escrow deposit will be, then I will write up the contract and I will send it to you electronically in your email for your electronic signature. If there are two of you, then I will send one email to one of you and one email to the other one, because we need individual signatures on the contract. Once I receive the signed contract back from you, then I will send an email to the seller's agent with the contract attached and either the pre-approval letter or the proof of funds, and I will send that through email to the seller's agent. And I will also call the seller's agent as well as text the seller's agent to make sure that they know that our offer is on its way. And now we wait. We wait for the seller to get back to the seller's agent. And usually I put on the contract a 24-hour response time. Now, if the seller happens to be out of the country, which does happen down here, then I usually add some time for that, because with time changes, you need a little extra time to get that done. Don't forget, the seller's agent has to receive the information that I've sent, as well as then get a hold of the seller and present the offer. And in this market, the offers that might be given on that property, and then get back to us. So I know it's hard to wait. It's hard for me too, but please try to be patient. They are getting back to us as soon as they can. I promise. Okay, our offer has been accepted and both parties have signed the contract. Now the clock starts ticking. Within 3 days, you will need to either wire transfer or pay by check that earnest money deposit that I talked about. Down here, it's generally something like $5,000, or if it's a higher priced property, $10,000. This is the money that you are giving to the seller to make sure that they understand that you're serious about this. You have a contract, so you're pretty serious. And it helps them feel better, obviously, about taking their property off the market. Usually there are a couple of contingencies when we submit our contract. The first one usually is the inspection contingency, and I try really hard to make that for 7 days. So the inspection period is 7 days. The first day is the day after we sign the contract. And the sooner we can get the inspector in there and get his report back, then the sooner we can move on with the contract or cancel the contract. The second contingency is for financing. If you're paying cash, there are no more contingencies, usually just the inspection. If you're financing, obviously, the whole deal is contingent upon you getting financing. So once we pass the 7th day of the inspection period, we have to tell the seller if we're going forward or not. If we go forward, now the next one is that financing contingency. And that doesn't usually come until the very end. And the reason it's a contingency is if we were to get to the very end and something came up where the lender said to you, Sherry, I'm sorry, I can't loan you the money for that house. Well, you would expect to be able to get your $5,000 or $10,000 back that you gave for escrow money. And you would get it back if the lender says, I'm sorry, I can't loan you the money. Here we are at step number 6, and that is the home inspection. The home inspection is crucial to this journey because it's the home inspection that may identify things that need repair or that you will have to deal with in the future. You can be present at the home inspection, but you don't have to be. So if you're not living here, that's fine. I will be at the home inspection and be there in your place. Now, I have an awesome home inspector that I would recommend. You are certainly free to pick whatever home inspector you want, but my home inspector's been doing this for a while and I really love him. The home inspector will contact you before the home inspection actually takes place. Now, he may have a contract for you to sign. He should go over what the home inspection is going to cover and what it will be like, as well as how much it will cost. You should have this home inspection report back before the last day of the home inspection period so that you can review it and decide if we are going forward with the contract, if we want to try to negotiate with the seller, or if whatever's on the home inspection is not satisfactory to you and you just want to cancel the contract. Now comes the fun part. Well, it may not be all that much fun, but it is a crucial step again for this whole process. That's the loan process. So I have a few things to say about the loan process. If your lender calls, texts, or emails you, get back to them right away. If your lender says, we need another pay stub, we need another bank statement, get it to them. If the title company calls you or texts you and needs a call back, call them. Because every minute that you can save a person on the teams of people that are trying to get you to the finish line, it makes a big difference on getting to that finish line on time. If you have not gotten a mortgage within the last 10 years, you're going to be surprised at how much the process has changed. Believe me, the lender is only asking you for the documents that their underwriting department is asking them for. And the underwriting department is only asking for those documents because they've got a long checklist of things that either the government has regulated to make sure that the crash of 2008, 9, 10, all that bad stuff that happened doesn't happen again. I can assure you that the underwriters really don't care about reading every word in your divorce decree from 20 years ago or looking at your bank statements. It's just something on their long checklist that they have to check off and say, yep, we asked for it and we got it. Included in this step number 7, which is the loan process, will be an appraisal. If you're paying cash, obviously you're not in this loan process, so you don't have to get an appraisal. I would certainly hope that the market analysis that I did for you would let you know that what you're paying is market value. However, if you're getting a loan, the bank is absolutely going to ask that an appraisal be done to make sure that the asset that they are giving you money for is worth the money that they're giving you. Now, here's the thing with an appraisal. It's an opinion of value, and that's why I do that comparative market analysis, because I don't want there to be a big surprise when we get all the way to the end of this journey and we have put in a contract for $450,000 for your dream home and the appraisal comes back at $425,000. Wah, wah, wah. That is not a good situation, because here's what has to happen. Either we go to the seller and we say, the appraisal came in low, $25,000 low. So, Mr. Seller, are you going to meet us at that $25,000 reduction and reduce the price of your home? Sometimes the seller says, yeah, I guess if that's what it's worth, then that's what I'm going to ask you to pay for it. Sometimes they don't say that. Sometimes the seller says, you know what? I think it's worth $450,000. So unless you can come up with the $25,000 difference, then you can't buy my house. And the lender is going to agree with them. We can't give you any more than the $425,000 that it appraised for. That's what the lender's going to say. So unless you have $25,000 to throw into the pot, then you can't buy that house. So once we get past the appraisal, then we usually have a little bit smoother sailing. You will start to receive from me information on utility setup, like the electric company, like the water company, like what cable companies are out there, what internet providers are out there. You don't have to worry about the garbage pickup because in this county, it's included in your taxes, and generally speaking, the garbage cans will already be there and there's no extra charge for that or no setup that you have to do. Okay, here we are at step number 8, and that is the closing. About 3 days prior to the closing, you will receive from your lender a closing disclosure. Now that closing disclosure is going to have a few things on it, like the terms of your loan, like how much the closing costs are going to be, fees that you may have to pay. Really is going to spell out all of the financial stuff. It's going to actually come down to a line that says cash to close. Now that cash to close line is important to you because you're going to need to know how much money that you need to bring to the closing table. And by bringing to the closing table, I mean how much money you are going to have to wire to the title company in order to make the closing happen. Now, I would recommend that whatever financial institution that you're getting that cash to close from, that you contact them a few days before the closing and you just find out what their process is. Because some financial institutions might say to you, you have to be here to arrange a wire transfer to the title company. Oh boy. Or we only do wire transfers from noon to 3 on Tuesday afternoons. I'm kidding. It's not usually that specific, but you should find out what their process is, because you don't want to wait till the last minute and be scrambling and stressing yourself out. There's enough other stresses that happen at the end of your loan process. Believe me, take care of any ones that you possibly can. Okay, we're getting closer. Usually the day of the closing, but sometimes it can be the day before the closing. I will schedule the final walkthrough your new home. We really just go there and walk through the house to make sure that nothing catastrophic happened, like did the hot water heater explode? Are all of the appliances still there? I've never really had anything bad happen, but it's in the contract, so we go do it. And we walk through the house because we haven't been there for quite a while. Then we get to go to the closing. Here we go. It's closing time. Now here in Southwest Florida, the title company makes sure that all the proper players show up to closings. However, here, the seller and the buyer don't sit at the same closing table. I know up north, a lot of times that's how they do it. But down here, the seller comes in and signs the papers that they have to sign. And then later, the buyer comes in and signs all the papers. Now, if you're getting a loan, it's going to be a lot of papers that you're signing. So make sure you're ready for that. The title company is responsible for making sure that all of the funds from the closing get dispersed to the right people. So all of those closing costs, those funds go to the right people. Obviously, they send the money to the seller that you are borrowing, and as well as the cash to close that you're bringing. So they take care of dispersing all of those funds. They make sure that they pay your insurance for the first year if you're borrowing money. They pay any taxes that might be due. We leave all of that up to them, and they do a fine job. Okay, we're at the finish line. The seller has signed all their documents. The buyer has signed all of their documents. The lender has wired the money. The buyer has wired the money. The title company has dispersed all the money. Guess what time it is? It's time for you to get your keys to your new home here in paradise. Sometimes you even get the garage remotes. And it's time to do the happy dance. As you can imagine, this is a very stressful process, and it should be. This is likely to be the largest purchase you will ever make in your life. And that's why I feel that it's really my job as your guide to make sure that you get all the answers to your questions, that we have some fun along the way, and try to keep it as light and organized as possible. Buying a home here in Southwest Florida should be a good experience. And again, I feel it's my job to make sure that that's what happens. So if you have any questions about buying a home down here, or if you know somebody that's interested in buying a home, please give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, and I will be glad to make sure that the experience is fun and ends up in you owning your own piece of paradise. You know, you may be interested in watching one of the other videos that I've made, like building a brand new home in Cape Coral, or where in Cape Coral should I live? I'm Sunshine Sherry. I am always here to help, and I can't wait to work with you.